Today, I'm gonna show you how to make this badass D&D-inspired potion bottle. Stay tuned. So as I said in my little intro there, today we're making a D&D-inspired potion bottle. But not just any potion, we are making the potion of giant strength. Specifically of fire giant strength. As usual, I have some art to go off of here provided by Middle Mist Red. For my bottle, I'm using this little number that I got from a Michael's store near me. Their bottle game, by the way, is what's up. There's a whole bunch of different varieties, and they're pretty cheap. Not an ad for Michael's, I just like their bottle game. Got like a weird bottle fetish going on. To make the design on the bottle, I'm gonna be using air dry clay. This is my first time using air dry clay, because I usually use like polymer clays for things like this, but I figured I'd give it a go. Now, the original idea was just to make a really cool looking glass bottle, but then I thought to myself, what if I could make it light up? That would be cool. Which led me down the following rabbit hole. A rabbit hole which started with these string lights. Also bought at Michael's. Hashtag Michael's sponsor me. Sponsor me. Here's the issue with these string lights though. The battery pack for these suckers is huge. There's just no way I could combine the bottle with that battery pack and make it look clean. It's just too big. But I did notice that the packaging comes with this little try me button here. Ripping that thing out, I realized it was quite small. And then breaking that open, I found out it was smaller still, consisting of this little square button here and this tiny 3-volt button battery. Now that is something I can work with. And the functionality of this is really simple. You just connect one leg of your LEDs to a terminal on the switch and the other one to the back side of the battery. You just need to make sure that the little terminal on the underside of that switch is actually coming to physical contact with the battery in order to complete that circuit. Now the next little fly in that ointment is the fact that batteries eventually die, so I want to be able to change this thing out, so that connection needs to be temporary. To get around this, I just busted out some of this blue tack to stick the two together. I just had to make sure the terminal was touching the battery, otherwise the tack did a great job making sure these two stuck together. So next I started wrapping the lights around the bottle just to measure out exactly how much I'd need. Then I cut that LED strip into my new short, more manageable size. You just want to make sure you have two of the legs of the LEDs hanging out so there's enough to work with. Those I just hit with my lighter to melt away some of the protective plastic coating. Then I simply soldered one side of that to my little switch, and the other side I stuck to the underside of the battery with a little bit of Scotch tape. This leaves me with this tiny little circuit that works exactly how I need it to. It's perfect. Now to stick everything in place, I just employed a little bit more blue tack to lock my button in where it's gonna go, and then use some more Scotch tape just to connect the lights to the bottom of the bottle. And with that, we have a way to light up our bottle. Tandem over. Back on track to actually making the bottle. I thought it was a fun little sidetrack at least. Okay, so as I said, I usually use a polymer clay, specifically Sculpey, to do my thing, which I find to be way easier to work with. This air dry stuff is super sticky. So just make sure you're doing it on like a wax baking sheet so it's not sticking to your surface. Once I had a piece kind of nice and flat, I cut out a roughly square shape and placed my bottle right on the center of it where I'd want it. Then I just folded it and stuck it to the glass, being sure to leave a little bit of space for my button to fit through. I found it easy just to kind of put it on the glass first and then cut any excess I wanted in the shape I need. Now, again, because it is so sticky, it will stick to your fingers and kind of fight you as you go. So I found the best way to kind of work it and smooth it out is to wet your hand as you go. To do this, I just used a tiny sponge, which I tap every once in a while to re-wet my hands. This helped a lot, and in no time, I was able to get a really clean result. That being said, as I was working, the stickiness on the bottom would kind of mess everything up every time I tried to lift the bottle. So to get around this, I just busted out this little hand mirror that I wet down to kind of stop it from sticking to it and placed it there. This also had a knock-on effect of making sure the bottom of it was perfectly like glass flat. Okay, and with that, I did the top pretty much the same as I did the bottom. The only difference is I started off by putting these balls kind of on the shoulder here just to make the profile more square. Then I just draped my pieces of clay into place, made cuts where I needed it, and proceeded to smooth and refine the shape. And I was super happy with how this came out. It was really smooth and just kind of clean looking. Very happy with that. Now again, in the picture here, you can see there's a lot of cool like Dwarvish writing and designs in there. To put these in place, I just used a stylus. It was really easy to make the required marks and shapes and get a really cool design going. With that all set, I just gave this bad boy 24 hours to cure. And it did cure nicely. From here, you could like sand it down if you wanted to, if you had any like rough spots, but I was very happy with how this turned out. The paint job for this whole thing is actually really simple. First, I hit it with an underlayer of black acrylic. Once that was completely covered, I mixed up some dark red and filled those areas in as well. Finally, I hit all of the Dwarvish writing with this fiery orange yellow. With all that complete, I locked it in with this glossy clear coat. That's not only gonna protect it, but look at this shine it added to it. Super slick looking at this point, except of course, for that ugly button. And I'm gonna be honest, I was not sure how to approach that little button area. I needed whatever covered that space up to be removable, because again, I want to be able to change out that battery. So it has to cover in that space and also has to be able to come off again. I was really lost. Finally, I came up with a pretty decent workaround involving this Coca-Cola bottle cap. All I did was drill a hole right in the middle of it, just big enough for my button to fit through. Then I cut away excess plastic from the bottom of it, so it was short enough for the button to actually fit through as well. This fit perfectly, allowing me to access that button and also covering up all the mess of that assembly, which is really all I wanted it to do. I just went ahead and hit it with some black spray paint to make sure it matched the whole look better. Then I employed more blue tack to give it a good temporary bond. Finally, I added just a little bit more tack to that button and added on this fancy jewel. Is it my best workaround? No. But it looks pretty damn good if you ask me. Like, it fits in, it doesn't look out of place at all. I'm happy with it. It does what I need it to do. For a final little touch on that bottle, I grabbed this metal finding and just hot glued it to the top to dress up the cork a little bit. Okay, so the exact description for the potion of giant strength from the Dungeon Master Guide here is as follows. This potion's transparent liquid has floating in it a sliver of fingernail from the giant of an appropriate type. In our case, a fire giant. So, I needed a giant fingernail. To make this, I busted out this beef bone that I had laying around. It has the perfect shape here to kind of make a fingernail out of. That being said, I imagine you can get away with a piece of PVC pipe too, just in case you don't happen to have an elephant graveyard in the backyard. I just went ahead and cut a sliver of this away with my bandsaw. Once that was broken in half, the piece looks just like a giant's fingernail to me. Pretty convincing, I thought. To keep it like suspended and kind of magically floating in my liquid, I just tied it to a piece of fishing line, which I hung from a cork with a thumbtack. Now, technically it is done at this point and it looks slick, but another rabbit hole, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, I think. While tooling around the internet, I saw this really cool way to make this lava lamp kind of effect, and I thought, being a fire giant potion, it would be perfect for this kind of application. And it's super simple to pull off. All you need is to fill a container about 1/4 of the way with water. And then of course add whatever food coloring you want. Now fill the container the rest of the way with some cooking oil. Water, being more dense than oil, will sit on the bottom and the oil will float on top. Now to make the magic happen, you need to bust out some Alka-Seltzer. The bubbles caused by this carries the water droplets up through the oil. As they are still heavier than the oil, they fall back down, giving this roiling lava lamp effect. And when added to my bottle, now that is a magic potion! That is so freaking dope! Now this camera is no good in low light, so I shot this on my cell phone. Look at how good that looks with the light on! This is one of my new favorite things. Look at that. Look at how cool that is. I love it. If you love it, or at least like my shenanigans here today, why don't you give me some of that thumbs up love, and do not forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. In the meantime though, keep leveling up, you.